I should have been afraid when a stranger knocked on my window that night. Rain pounding, highway empty, phone dead. And there he was, soaked through, not asking permission, just pop the hood. He was bald, covered in tattoos that crawled up his neck like warnings I should have read. White guy, mid-30s. Hands that knew engines the way some men know weapons. He fixed my car in 10 minutes flat. Then he leaned against my door, blocking me from leaving, and said, "You're going to dinner with me, tomorrow, 7 o'clock. I laughed. He didn't. I should have driven away. But something in his voice, not a threat, just certainty, made me say yes. I didn't know he'd learned to fix cars in prison. I didn't know that saving me wasn't enough. He needed to keep me. You will feel so many emotions in this story of second chances and forbidden love. Please support us by clicking subscribe to the channel. I should have been afraid when a stranger knocked on my window that night. Rain pounding, highway empty, phone dead. And there he was, soaked through, not asking permission. Just pop the hood. He was bald, covered in tattoos that crawled up his neck like warnings I should have read. White guy, mid-30s, hands that knew engines the way some men know weapons. He fixed my car in 10 minutes flat. Then he leaned against my door, blocking me from leaving, and said, "You're going to dinner with me. Tomorrow. 7 o'clock. I laughed. He didn't. I should have driven away. But something in his voice, not a threat, just certainty, made me say yes. I didn't know he'd learned to fix cars in prison. I didn't know that saving me wasn't enough. He needed to keep me. You will feel so many emotions in this story of second chances and forbidden love. Please support us by clicking subscribe to the channel." The rain had been falling for hours before my car died. One of those October storms that turns Houston highways into rivers. The kind where your wipers can't keep up and you're driving half blind, praying the taillights ahead don't disappear. Mine did. Everything did. The engine just gave up, and I coasted onto the shoulder, hazards blinking uselessly into the downpour. 30 minutes I sat there, maybe longer. Time gets strange when you're alone in the dark with a dead phone and no plan. I watched trucks spray past, their headlights turning the rain into static. Nobody stopped. Why would they? You don't stop on Houston highways at night. You don't roll down your window for strangers. You definitely don't pop your hood. But then headlights pulled up behind me, closer than they should have been. I watched in my rearview mirror as a man got out. No umbrella, no raincoat, just a white t-shirt that went transparent in seconds. He was built like someone who'd learned to take up space, bald head catching the red glow of my hazards, and even from a distance I could see the ink covering his arms, his neck, disappearing under his collar like a history written in permanent marker. He knocked on my window. One knock, not aggressive, just sure. I cracked it an inch. Water immediately leaked through. "Pop the hood," he said. Not a question. My hands were shaking when I pulled the release. I watched him through the rain-streaked windshield, lifting the hood like he'd done it 1,000 times, his hands moving with a confidence that felt both comforting and dangerous. He had a flashlight on his phone. I could see him examining belts, checking connections, his face expressionless in the white light. 10 minutes. That's all it took. My engine turned over on the first try. I rolled down my window, trying to thank him, fumbling for my wallet. He leaned against my door before I could close it, one hand on the frame, water streaming down his face. Up close, I could see the details, the tattoo of a clock with no hands on his forearm, the scar through his left eyebrow, the way his gray eyes didn't blink. "You're going to dinner with me," he said. I laughed. It came out nervous, confused. "I don't even know you." "You will," he said. His voice was calm, certain, like he was telling me the sun would rise tomorrow. "Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. I'll pick you up." "I can't just—" "You can," he said. "You will." There was something about the way he said it. Not demanding, not threatening, just stating a fact, like gravity or rain. I should have driven away, should have locked my doors and left him standing there on the highway. Instead, I heard myself give him my address, watched myself write my number on a gas station receipt with a pen that barely worked. He took it, nodded once, and walked back to his truck without another word. I drove home in silence, hands tight on the wheel, trying to understand what I'd just done, trying to understand why I wasn't more afraid. He showed up the next night at 6:58. I know because I was watching the clock, half hoping he wouldn't come, half terrified he wouldn't. When his truck pulled up, he sat there for 2 full minutes before getting out, like he was giving himself a pep talk. He wore a clean black shirt. His tattoos were still visible, still unsettling, but there was something almost careful about him, like he'd thought about what to wear. Like this mattered. The diner he took me to was nothing special. Red vinyl booths, fluorescent lights, a waitress who called everyone honey. He ordered coffee, black. I ordered the same, even though I hated it without cream. "What do you do?" I asked. "Construction," he said. "Mostly commercial." "You?" "I work at a library, downtown branch." He nodded like this told him everything he needed to know about me. Maybe it did. "Do you live alone?" he asked. The question should have set off alarms. Instead, I answered honestly. "Yes." "Boyfriend?" He's persistent." Something changed in his face. Not anger, exactly. Something colder. More focused. Persistent how? "Texts. Shows up sometimes. Nothing I can't handle." He was quiet for a long time, staring at his coffee like it held answers. "You shouldn't have to handle it," he finally said. We talked until the diner closed, about nothing and everything. He asked questions like he was building a map of my life, where I worked, what time I left, which bus I took, what made me nervous. I should have felt interrogated. Instead, I felt seen. He walked me to my door, didn't try to kiss me, didn't ask to come inside, just waited while I fumbled with my keys. "Lock this behind you," he said. "Deadbolt too." I did. And then I watched through my window as he walked back to his truck. He didn't leave. He sat there, engine off, just watching my building in the dark, making sure I was safe, or making sure I couldn't leave. He started appearing everywhere after that. Not obviously, not aggressively, but there. Always there. The coffee shop where I grabbed my morning latte on Tuesdays and Thursdays. He'd be in line behind me, ordering black coffee, nodding when our eyes met like it was the most natural thing in the world. Outside my library when I locked up after evening shifts, leaning against his truck across the street, waiting for something I couldn't name. The laundromat on Thursday nights where I dragged my basket of clothes because my apartment building's machines were broken. He'd be folding his own laundry 2 machines down, white t-shirts and work jeans, everything neat and precise. I should have called the police. Should have been terrified. Instead, I felt something I hadn't felt in the 2 years since Derek and I split up. Safe. The 4th time I saw him, outside a bodega near my apartment at 11 p.m. when I'd run out of milk, I finally confronted him. "Are you following me?" He looked up from his phone, completely unsurprised to see me. "Yes." The honesty knocked the anger right out of me. "Why?" "This neighborhood isn't safe," he said simply. "And you don't pay attention." "Excuse me." "You walk with headphones in. You cut through the alley behind the check cashing place. You don't lock your car half the time. Last Tuesday, you left your apartment window open on the fire escape side." My face went hot. How do you know all that?" "Because I'm watching," he said. I should have slapped him. Should have screamed. Instead, I asked, "What's your name?" "Marcus," he said. Then added, "Marcus Reed. I'm Olivia." "I know," he said. Then, softer, "You should go home. It's late." I went, but I felt his eyes on me the whole walk back. After that, he stopped pretending to be coincidental about it. He just showed up. Fixed the broken lock on my apartment door without asking, replacing it with something heavy-duty that actually worked. Carried my groceries when he saw me struggling with too many bags. Appeared out of nowhere when Derek started texting me again after I'd blocked him for the 3rd time. Derek had been getting bolder. Texts became voicemails. Voicemails became him showing up at my building, drunk, leaning on the buzzer until someone let him in. I'd ignored him twice, pretended I wasn't home. The 3rd time, I opened my door to tell him to leave, and Marcus was standing in the hallway between us. I don't know how he got inside the building. Don't know how he knew. "Who's your friend?" Derek asked, trying to sound tough. He was smaller than Marcus, softer. Had probably never been in a real fight in his life. Marcus didn't answer. Just stepped forward, closing the distance without touching him. Derek's face went pale. "I think you're leaving now." Marcus said quietly. Derek left, fast. After he was gone, I stood there shaking, adrenaline making my hands useless. How did you know he was here? I heard him in the stairwell, Marcus said. You should change your locks. He has a key, doesn't he? He did. I'd forgotten. Marcus hadn't. I'll change them tomorrow, Marcus said. New deadbolt, new handle. I'll key them both the same so you only need one key. You don't have to. I know, but he did it anyway. Showed up the next morning with tools and hardware from Home Depot, worked for 2 hours while I pretended to read a book and mostly watched him. His hands were scarred, knuckles that had been broken and healed wrong, but they moved with absolute precision. When he was done, he handed me 2 keys on a simple ring. Derek comes back. You call me, he said. Not the police. Me. I should have asked why. Should have questioned the presumption, the way he was inserting himself into my life without invitation. Instead, I took the keys and said, "Thank you." Something in his face softened, just for a second. Then it was gone. I started Googling him that night. Marcus Reed, Houston. Nothing came up. No Facebook, no Instagram, no LinkedIn. It was like he didn't exist online. I tried variations. Still nothing. The next day, I asked Rosa at the bodega, the woman who knew everyone in a 6-block radius. Her face changed when I mentioned his name. Went careful. He keeps to himself, she said. Does his time? Doesn't bother nobody? Does his time? I asked. She realized what she'd said. Looked away. Just, he's had it rough, mija. But he's good people. Pays his bills. Doesn't cause trouble. I noticed things after that. How people reacted when Marcus walked by, stepping aside on the sidewalk, avoiding eye contact, giving him space. Not fear exactly, respect. The kind you give to something dangerous that's choosing to be gentle. I noticed the tattoos more carefully. The clock with no hands. Numbers on his wrist that looks like a date. A quote in script along his ribs I could only see when his shirt rode up. What we do in life echoes in eternity. Prison tattoos. I was almost sure. Derek kept escalating. Showed up at my library. Making a scene until security escorted him out. Sent flowers to my apartment with notes that tried to sound romantic but felt threatening. Left voicemails describing what he wanted to do to me, how he missed me, how I was making a mistake. I called the police twice. They took reports. Did nothing. The third night, Derek showed up drunk, banging on doors in my building and screaming my name. I didn't call 911. I called Marcus. He answered on the first ring. What's wrong? I told him. He was silent for so long I thought the call had dropped. Stay inside, he finally said. His voice had changed. Gone cold, flat, empty of everything except purpose. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but me. I'm coming. He was there in 8 minutes. I heard Derek's voice cut off mid-sentence, heard Marcus say something too quiet for me to make out. Then silence. Then footsteps. Marcus knocked on my door. It's me. I opened it. Derek was gone. What did you do? I asked. Talk to him, Marcus said. He won't be back tonight. Just talked? He looked at me with those steady gray eyes. Just talked? I wanted to believe him. I did believe him. But I also saw the way his jaw was tight, the way his right hand kept flexing, like it remembered something it wanted to do. My neighbor, Mrs. Chen from 4B, grabbed my arm in the hallway the next morning. She was 70, tough as nails, never scared of anything, but her hand was shaking. Do you know who that man is? She whispered. The bald one? His name is Marcus. I know his name, she said. Do you know what he did? My stomach went cold. What do you mean? She pulled out her phone, hands fumbling, and showed me a news article from 11 years ago. The headline made my breath stop. Man sentenced to 15 years for brutal assault. There was a photo. Younger, more hair, but unmistakably him. He almost killed someone, Mrs. Chen said. Put them in a coma. And now he's following you around like... She stopped, searching for words. Like he owns you. I stared at the photo, at Marcus's face, younger and harder and full of rage I'd never seen in person. He got out 14 months ago, Mrs. Chen said. Parole. And honey, men like that don't change. They just get better at hiding what they are. I took the phone from her hands. reading the article with something like horror crawling up my spine. Aggravated assault. Premeditated. The victim had nearly died. Marcus had shown no remorse in court. The judge had called him a danger to society. I gave the phone back and walked into my apartment, locking the new deadbolt Marcus had installed. My phone buzzed. A text from him. "Derek won't bother you anymore. I made sure." I stared at those words. Made sure. What did that mean? What had he done? Another text. "We should talk. I'll come by tonight. 7 p.m. if you want." I spent the whole day preparing for a conversation I didn't know how to have, rehearsing questions in my head while I shelved books at the library, hands moving on autopilot. "Were you in prison? What did you do? Are you dangerous?" Each question felt simultaneously essential and impossible to ask. By the time 7 o'clock arrived, I'd decided to pretend I didn't know, to let him leave, to ghost him until he got the message. Then he knocked, and I opened the door anyway. He stood there with 2 coffees from the diner, steam curling from the lids. Black for him, cream and sugar for me, even though I'd never told him how I took it. He just knew. Had probably watched me order it a dozen times. "Can I come in?" he asked. I stepped aside. He sat on my couch, setting the coffees on the table, and waited. Just waited. Like he knew what was coming and had already accepted it. "Were you in prison?" I finally asked. "Yes." No hesitation. No flinch. Just that one word, flat and honest. I stood there, arms crossed, waiting for more. When he didn't continue, I pressed. "How long?" 10 years. Got out 14 months ago. "What did you do?" He took a breath, met my eyes. "Assault. Someone hurt my sister. Badly." I made sure they couldn't do it again. The clinical way he said it made it worse somehow. Like he was reporting facts, not confessing to violence. "You almost killed someone. I know. You showed no remorse." That's what the article said. "I showed no remorse for protecting my sister," he said. His voice stayed level, but something flickered behind his eyes. "I showed plenty of remorse for how far I went, for not stopping when I should have, for taking justice into my own hands instead of trusting the system. But no, I wasn't sorry I hurt the man who put my sister in the hospital. I'm still not." I sat down on the chair across from him, needing distance. "Tell me what happened." He was quiet for a long moment, staring at his hands. Those scarred, careful hands that had fixed my car, changed my locks, carried my groceries. "His name was Dylan Carr," Marcus said. "He dated my sister for 6 months. She tried to leave him 3 times. The 3rd time, he followed her home and beat her so badly she was in a coma for 3 days. Broke her jaw, fractured her skull, ruptured her spleen. When she woke up, she told the police everything. They arrested him. He stopped, jaw working. The DA said there wasn't enough evidence to convict. Dylan's family had money, good lawyers. It became her word against his, and the defense made her look unstable. They dropped the charges. My chest felt tight. "So, you went after him." 6 weeks later, Marcus said. "I found him at a bar. I didn't plan to hurt him. I just wanted him to confess, wanted to record it, take it to the police. But he recognized me, started bragging about what he did to Jenny, how she deserved it, how he'd do it again. He pulled a knife. I took it away from him. He looked up at me then, and his eyes were empty in a way that scared me more than anger would have. I put him in the hospital for 3 months, Marcus said. Broke his arm, his ribs, his jaw. When they pulled me off him, I was still hitting him. And you know what I was thinking the whole time? That he was still breathing. That Jenny couldn't breathe on her own for 4 days. And he was still breathing. The silence between us felt like something physical. I served my time, Marcus continued. I'm on parole for another 3 years. I check in every Tuesday. I don't drink. I don't stay out past 10 p.m. I work construction, pay my bills, and keep my head down. And if you want me to disappear, I will. I'll stop coming around. Stop checking on you. Stop existing in your life. You just have to say the word. He meant it. I could see it in the way he sat there, ready to stand up and walk out and never look back if I asked him to. When Derek stopped showing up, I said slowly, "What did you do?" I explained consequences, Marcus said. I told him if he came near you again, I'd make sure his parole officer knew about every violation he'd been committing. Turns out Derek has his own record. Domestic violence. Restraining order from his ex before you. He's not supposed to contact former partners. I reminded him of that. Just talked, I said. Just talked. I wanted to believe him. Part of me did. But part of me saw the man in that article, face twisted with rage, being dragged away by 3 officers. I need time, I said, to think. I understand. He stood up, left his coffee untouched, and walked to the door, paused with his hand on the handle. I'm not that person anymore, he said quietly, but I understand why people think I am. The question you have to answer is whether you believe people can change, whether 10 years of counting days and doing everything right earns someone a second chance, or whether what I did 11 years ago is all I'll ever be. He left. I sat there in the silence, staring at the 2 coffee cups on my table, trying to reconcile the man who remembered how I took my coffee with the man who'd put someone in a coma. I spent 2 days avoiding him, took different routes to work, didn't go to the bodega, stayed inside after dark, and I researched, found the court transcripts online, read every detail of the trial, found the victim's testimony, Dylan Carr describing his injuries in clinical detail, his lawyer painting Marcus as a monster, found Jenny's testimony too, buried in the pre-trial motions. Her description of what Dylan had done to her made me physically ill. I found an interview with the detective who'd worked Jenny's case. He'd retired, moved to Arizona, but I called him anyway. I remember Marcus Reed, he said when I explained why I was calling. Good kid before all that. Worked 2 jobs to help his sister pay rent. When Dylan walked, Marcus came to my house, asked me what else he could do legally. I told him there was nothing. The system had failed his sister. 3 weeks later, he took care of it himself. Do you think he's dangerous? I asked. The detective was quiet for a long time. I think he's a man who did something terrible for a reason most people would understand. I think prison either breaks people or rebuilds them. And from what I hear, Reed did his time clean. No incidents, no violence, got his GED and then some. Does that mean he's safe? Hell, I don't know. But I know there are men walking around free who've done worse and felt nothing. I saw Marcus again on the 3rd day. Couldn't avoid it. He was coming out of the parole office on Travis Street just as I was walking past. We both stopped. The afternoon sun caught the tattoos on his arms, made the clock with no hands look like it was burning. Olivia, he said. Just my name. Nothing else. Why didn't you tell me, I asked, about Dylan's family, about the lawyers, about what he did to Jenny? Would it have changed anything? He asked. Would knowing that I had a good reason make what I did okay? I still put a man in the hospital. I still took the law into my own hands. I still spent 10 years in a cage because I couldn't control my anger. It's not about it being okay, I said. It's about me understanding who you are. You do understand, he said. You've read the articles. You know what I did. The question isn't who I was. It's whether you believe who I'm trying to be. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't look, but something made me check. The text was a photo. My apartment building. Taken from across the street. Taken recently. I could see my car in the parking lot. The new dent in the fender from last week. Below it. We need to talk. You and me. Alone. No prison boyfriend. Tomorrow night. Your place. Don't make me ask twice. I looked up at Marcus. He'd seen the expression on my face. What is it? I showed him the phone. Watched his jaw tighten. Watched something cold and familiar slide behind his eyes. Something that had probably kept him alive in prison. Something that scared me and relieved me in equal measure. That's Derek's number, I said. I thought you said he wouldn't bother me anymore. I thought he wouldn't, Marcus said. His voice had changed, gone soft and dangerous. I was wrong. My hands were shaking. What do I do? You don't do anything, Marcus said. You call the police. You file a report. You let the system handle it. The system doesn't handle it, I said. The system takes reports and does nothing. You know that. He looked at me for a long moment, then at my phone, then back at me. If I handle this, I violate my parole, he said. If I go near Derek, if I threaten him, if I so much as look at him wrong and someone reports it, I go back to prison. For years. Do you understand that? I did. And it terrified me. Not because I was afraid of Marcus, but because I realized in that moment that I needed him, that the system had failed me the same way it had failed his sister. And the only person offering real protection was someone who'd already paid everything for making that choice once before. "Don't do anything," I said. "Please, I'll figure it out." But we both knew I wouldn't. Couldn't. My apartment window shattered that night at 2 a.m. I was asleep when it happened. The crash jerking me awake with my heart hammering, glass everywhere, a brick on my bedroom floor with a note rubber banded around it. I called 911 with shaking hands. Then I called Marcus. He was there before the police. The police took their report and left by 4 a.m. Took photos of the brick, the note, the shattered window. Told me to call if Derek contacted me again. One of them recognized Marcus, I could tell. Kept looking at him with that specific wariness cops reserve for ex-cons, like he might explode at any moment. Marcus just stood there, hands in his pockets, answering questions in that flat, careful voice. "Yes, sir. No, sir. I'm a friend." I was nearby. After they left, he boarded up the window with plywood and duct tape from his truck, swept up the glass while I sat on my couch, wrapped in a blanket, watching his hands move with methodical precision. When he was done, he made coffee, sat next to me, waited. The sun was starting to come up when I finally spoke. "Why are you doing this?" He was quiet for a long time. Steam rising from his cup, untouched. Outside, Houston was waking up, traffic building, birds starting their morning chaos. "Because I know what it's like when no one helps," he finally said. "I know what it's like to be afraid in your own home, to call the police and have them treat you like you're wasting their time, to realize the system everyone says will protect you is just paperwork and empty promises." He stared at his coffee. "And because the first time I saw you, broken down on that highway, you looked at me like I was human, not a criminal, not something to cross the street to avoid, just a person who could help. You didn't see the tattoos or the scars or whatever else people see when they look at me. You just saw someone who knew how to fix your car." His voice cracked slightly. "I haven't felt like a person in a long time, Olivia. Prison takes that from you. Makes you a number, a threat, a statistic. You become a ghost so you can survive. And then you get out and realize you're still a ghost. People still look through you or around you or at you like you're something dangerous they need to avoid. But you didn't. You just said thank you." I reached out without thinking, put my hand on his. He stared at my fingers like he'd forgotten what gentle touch felt like. "I need you to stay," I said. "Not just tonight. I need you to help me with Derek, to keep showing up until this is over. Olivia, I know what I'm asking," I said. "I know the risk, but I can't do this alone. The police won't help. My friends don't understand. My family lives in Dallas and thinks I'm overreacting. You're the only person who's actually done something, who's actually made me feel safe." He closed his eyes. "If I do this, I have boundaries, rules I can't break. I won't touch Derek unless he touches you first. I won't threaten him. I won't do anything that violates my parole. Because if I go back to prison, I can't help you at all. Do you understand?" "Yes. And you need to know what you're getting into," he said. "People will judge you for being around me. Your neighbors already do. Your job might have questions. Your family definitely will. Being with me comes with a cost. Being alone has a cost too," I said. He opened his eyes, looked at me with something raw and undefended. "Okay," he said. "I'll stay." He slept on my couch that night and every night after. I learned his routine quickly. It was rigid, unbreakable. Up at 4:30 for his construction job, a foreman position he'd worked his way into over 14 months of showing up early and staying late. Parole check-in every Tuesday at 3 p.m., never late, never rescheduled. Home by 9:30 because his curfew was 10, and he built in buffer time for traffic. No alcohol, no bars, no places where fights might start, no situations that could be misinterpreted. He lived like someone who knew exactly how much he had to lose. I went to his apartment once, the week after the window incident. He'd insisted on getting me a new phone with a different number, said Derek might have spyware on my old one. When he went to grab it from his place, I asked to come along. It was a studio in 3rd Ward, one of those buildings that got renovated just enough to be legal, but not enough to be comfortable. His unit was on the 3rd floor, no elevator. Inside was almost empty. A mattress on the floor with sheets tucked in with military precision, a folding table with one chair, a mini fridge and a hot plate, 3 possessions on the otherwise bare dresser, a framed photo of a woman who had to be Jenny, her smile bright and uncomplicated. A Bible someone had given him in prison, the spine uncracked, pages pristine, and a red toolbox, battered and covered in stickers from places he'd probably never been. "This is it," I asked. "This is it. Marcus, you've been out for 14 months. I know. You could have furniture, decorations, something." He shrugged. "I'm saving, and I don't need much. Prison teaches you that. Everything you own can be taken. Everything you care about can be used against you. Simpler to have nothing." "That's not living," I said. "That's still surviving." He looked around his apartment like he was seeing it for the first time. Maybe I don't know the difference anymore. That night, sitting on my couch, I asked him about prison. Really asked. He didn't glorify it, didn't dramatize it, just spoke in that flat, factual voice. "It teaches you to disappear," he said. "To take up no space, make no noise, show no weakness. You learn to watch everything. Who's angry, who's scared, who's looking for someone to hurt. You count days, you count meals, you count breaths. Some guys get through it by getting hard, by becoming the thing everyone fears. I got through it by becoming invisible. 10 years, I said. 3,652 days. I counted every single one. What was the worst part? He thought about it. The silence. Not the lack of noise. Prisons are loud. But the silence of no one saying your name like you matter. No one asking how you're doing and meaning it. No one touching you unless it's to cuff you or search you or hurt you. You forget what it's like to be human. To be anything except a body taking up space until your time is done. I touched his hand again. This time he turned his palm up. Let my fingers rest against his. His hand was warm, calloused, trembling slightly. "I'm not going back," he said quietly. "I'd rather die than go back. But you make me remember why I fought to get out. Why I counted every day and followed every rule and kept myself clean when it would have been easier to just give up. You make me feel like maybe all that time wasn't wasted. Like maybe I can still be someone worth knowing." Something in my chest cracked open. I leaned forward, rested my head against his shoulder. He went very still, like he was afraid to move, afraid I'd pull away. Then slowly, carefully, he put his arm around me. "Thank you," I whispered. "For what?" "For showing up, for staying, for being exactly who you are." He kissed the top of my head so gently I almost didn't feel it. And for the first time since the window shattered, I felt safe enough to sleep. I woke up at noon to find him gone. A note on my table. "Job site emergency. Back by 6. Doors locked. Don't open it for anyone." The knock came at 2 p.m. I looked through the peephole and saw a man in a gray suit, badge clipped to his belt. Official. Serious. "Olivia Torres?" he called through the door. "I'm Officer Patterson, Parole Division. I need to speak with you about Marcus Reed." My stomach dropped. "He's not here." "I know where he is," Patterson said. "I need to speak with you. It's important." I opened the door. Patterson stepped inside without waiting for invitation, looked around my apartment with practiced assessment. His eyes landed on the boarded window, the couch with Marcus's blanket folded on the arm, the 2 coffee cups in the sink. "How long has Mr. Reed been staying here?" he asked. "He's not staying here," I said. "He's helping me with a situation." "What kind of situation?" "My ex-boyfriend is harassing me, threatening me. The police have reports." Patterson nodded slowly. "And you thought an ex-convict with a history of violence was the solution. He's the only person actually helping." "Miss Torres," Patterson said, sitting down uninvited. "Do you know the terms of Marcus Reed's parole?" "Some of them. One of those terms is that he cannot have contact with anyone involved in ongoing criminal investigations or domestic disputes. Your ex-boyfriend filed a restraining order against Mr. Reed 3 days ago. My blood went cold. Derek filed a restraining order. He's the one stalking me. According to Mr. Milligan, Marcus Reed threatened him, intimidated him outside his home, and has a documented history of violence. The restraining order was granted this morning, which means every second Mr. Reed spends in this apartment, Every time he comes near you or your ex-boyfriend, he's violating the terms of his release. That's not fair. Fair doesn't matter, Patterson said. Legal does. And right now, Marcus Reed is in violation. I could arrest him today. Send him back for the remainder of his original sentence plus additional time for the violation. But he didn't do anything wrong. Patterson stood up, handed me his card. Then you need to convince him to stay away from you. Because if he keeps playing hero, the only place he's going is back to prison. Patterson left, and I sat there with his card in my shaking hands, staring at the words parole division like they might rearrange themselves into something less terrifying. Marcus was violating his parole just by being here. Derek had weaponized the system against him, turned Marcus's past into a trap, and I was the bait. When Marcus came back at 6, I told him everything. Watched his face go carefully blank, that prison mask sliding into place. I have to stay away from you, he said. Not a question, a conclusion, Patterson said. I know what he said. Marcus stood up, started folding his blanket with methodical precision. Derek's smarter than I gave him credit for. He knows my record, knows I can't afford to violate. One complaint, one accusation, and I'm gone. So what do we do? He looked at me with something like grief. You get a real lawyer. File for a restraining order against Derek. Document everything. Let the system work the way it's supposed to. The system doesn't work. You know that. It has to, he said, because I can't help you anymore. Not without losing everything. He left that night, took his blanket, his toothbrush, the change of clothes he'd been keeping in my bathroom, stood at my door and said, "Lock this behind me." All 3 locks. You have my number if something happens. Marcus. I mean it, Olivia. Something happens. You call me. I don't care what Patterson said. You call me. Then he was gone. Derek knew immediately. I don't know how. Maybe he was watching the building. Maybe he'd been tracking Marcus's truck. But the text started that same night. Where'd your boyfriend go? Guess the convict realized you weren't worth the risk. We should talk, just you and me, like old times. I blocked the number. He called from a different one. I blocked that too. He started using payphones, randomized apps, numbers that showed up as unknown. The messages got worse, more detailed, describing things he wanted to do, things he remembered doing, things that made my skin crawl. I went to the police station on Richmond, filed a report with a detective who looked exhausted before I even started talking. Showed him the texts, the photos of my shattered window, the brick with Derek's handwriting. He took notes, said they'd look into it, said restraining orders took time, said I should stay with family if possible. I didn't have family in Houston. Didn't have anywhere to go. Marcus texted me from a distance. Instructions, mostly. Safety protocols he'd learned somewhere. Never take the same route twice. Check your car for tracking devices, vary your schedule, keep your phone charged. He was still watching over me, just from far enough away that Patterson couldn't call it contact. But Derek escalated. My tires were slashed in the library parking lot. Security footage showed a figure in a hoodie, face covered. Could have been anyone. Probably wasn't. I found a dead rat in my mailbox. No note. Didn't need one. Someone called my supervisor at the library, claimed I'd been stealing from the donation jar. I hadn't. They investigated anyway. Didn't find anything but the accusation hung there, making everyone look at me differently. I started seeing Derek everywhere, outside the bodega, across the street from my apartment, in the parking lot when I left work. Never close enough to violate the restraining order I'd finally gotten approved, just close enough to make sure I knew he was there. Watching. Waiting. I called Marcus one night at 2 a.m., so exhausted and scared I couldn't think straight. I can't do this anymore. Yes, you can, he said immediately. You're stronger than you think. I'm not. I'm terrified. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I keep waiting for something worse to happen. Nothing worse is going to happen, Marcus said. I won't let it. You're not here. I'm always here. And he was, in his way. I'd see his truck parked 3 blocks over. I'd spot him on job sites near my commute, timing his brakes to watch me pass. Once I saw him in the library, pretending to browse the construction section while I worked the front desk. When I caught his eye, he just nodded once and left. Patterson noticed too. Called me in for a meeting I didn't want to have. His office smelled like burnt coffee and old files. Miss Torres, He's still watching you. He's not violating the restraining order. He's circling it, testing boundaries. That's what they do. They find the line and walk right up to it, then act surprised when they cross it. He's keeping me safe, I said. He's keeping himself in your life, Patterson corrected. And I've seen this pattern 100 times. Man gets out, finds a woman who makes him feel like he's not a criminal anymore. He plays protector, plays hero. And the second things go wrong, the second his parole's threatened or someone challenges him, he goes right back to who he was. It's not personal, it's statistics. You're wrong about him. Patterson leaned back in his chair. Miss Torres, I've been doing this for 15 years. Marcus Reed spent 10 years in prison for putting a man in the hospital. He learned how to survive in a cage. That doesn't make him a good man. That makes him a dangerous man who's very good at controlling himself until he's not. He's not going to hurt anyone. Hope you're right, Patterson said. Because if he does, it's on both of you. I left his office shaking with anger. Drove to Marcus's apartment building even though I knew I shouldn't. Sat in my car outside, trying to decide if going up would make things worse. My phone rang. Derek. I answered without thinking. Stop calling me. I'm not calling, he said, voice slurred. Drunk. I'm coming over. We need to talk about your boyfriend, about what happens to girls who let criminals touch them. You're not coming anywhere near me. Already here, baby. I looked up. He was standing on the sidewalk 20 feet from Marcus's building, phone to his ear, smiling. My hands went numb. How did you know I was here? Tracker on your car. Had it installed weeks ago. Been watching you drive all over town. Playing detective? Thinking you're safe? You're not safe. You're mine. I hung up, immediately called 911, gave them the address, Derek's name, told them about the restraining order. The dispatcher said someone would be there soon. Stay in your car, lock the doors. Derek started walking toward me. I called Marcus. It rang twice, 3 times. Derek was 10 feet away. Marcus answered. Olivia? Derek's here. Outside your building. He tracked my car. Police are coming, but the line went dead. Not disconnected. Dead. Like Marcus had hung up mid-sentence. Derek reached my door, tried the handle. Locked. He smiled, pulled something from his pocket. A rock. Raised it above his head. Marcus came out of nowhere. 1 second, Derek was about to smash my window. The next, he was on the ground, Marcus's knee on his back, one arm twisted at an angle that had to hurt. Marcus's face was empty. Not angry. Not even present. Just automatic. Mechanical. The face of someone doing something he'd done 1,000 times before. Don't move, Marcus said quietly. Derek screamed, struggled. Marcus applied more pressure and Derek went still. I got out of my car on shaking legs. Marcus, the police are coming. I know. You can't be here. Patterson will... I know, but he didn't let go. Just knelt there on top of Derek, holding him down with perfect, practiced control. No excessive force, no punches, just restraint. Just keeping him from moving until the threat was over. Sirens in the distance. Marcus, please. You have to go. Not leaving you with him. The cop car pulled up. 2 officers got out, hands on their weapons. Let him go, one of them ordered. Marcus did. Stood up slowly, hands visible. No sudden movements. Derek scrambled away, face red, screaming about assault, about his arm, about the crazy ex-con who attacked him. The officers cuffed Marcus. Didn't ask questions, just cuffed him. He was protecting me, I said. Derek broke the restraining order. He tracked my car. He was going to attack me. We'll sort it out at the station, one officer said. Then to his partner. Call Patterson. Let him know we've got Reed. They put Marcus in the back of the patrol car. He looked at me through the window, and his face was completely calm, resigned. Like he'd known this was always how it would end. Patterson showed up before they left, took one look at the scene and shook his head. You couldn't just stay away, he said to Marcus. She called for help. She called 911, not you. She called me too. Patterson turned to me. Is that true? I couldn't lie. Wouldn't lie. Yes. Then you just violated his parole, Patterson said. The restraining order prohibits contact. You called him. He came. That's a violation. He's going back. But Derek will be charged for violating his own restraining order, Patterson said. But that doesn't change what Reed did. Doesn't change that he chose to come here instead of letting the police handle it. Doesn't change that he just put his hands on someone while on parole for assault. He walked over to the patrol car, looked at Marcus through the window. Was she worth it, Reed? Was playing hero worth throwing away 14 months of freedom? Marcus didn't answer. Just kept his eyes on me as they drove away. They held Marcus for 72 hours before the bail hearing. I borrowed money I didn't have, called my mother in Dallas, maxed out my credit card, took out a payday loan at an interest rate that made the clerk wince. $5,000 to get him out while they decided whether to revoke his parole entirely. When he walked out of county lockup, he looked thinner, older, like those 3 days had aged him years. He saw me waiting and stopped. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "Where else would I be?" "Olivia. Don't. I posted your bail. You're coming to my apartment. We're figuring this out." "There's nothing to figure out. I violated my parole. Patterson's filing a revocation hearing. I'll probably go back for the remainder of my original sentence. Another 3 years. Maybe more." The casual way he said it, like he was describing the weather, made me want to scream. "You were protecting me. Doesn't matter." I put my hands on someone, while on parole. After being ordered to stay away from the situation, Patterson's right. I couldn't just let it go. We drove to my apartment in silence. He sat on the couch that had been his bed for those few weeks, hands folded, staring at nothing. "What happened in there?" I asked. "In lockup." He was quiet for a long time. "You forget how fast it comes back. The counting, the watching, the way you have to carry yourself so people leave you alone. I thought I'd gotten past it. Thought 14 months was enough to make me normal again. 3 days and it was like I never left. Marcus. There's a hearing in 2 weeks," he said. "Patterson's recommending full revocation. My public defender already told me to prepare for the worst. The judge isn't sympathetic to ex-cons who can't follow simple rules like staying away from conflict. But you were helping me." "I was vigilanting," he corrected. "Same thing that got me locked up the first time. Same thing I swore I'd never do again. And I did it anyway. Because when you called, when I heard the fear in your voice, none of the rules mattered anymore. Just keeping you safe." He looked at me with those steady gray eyes. "That's the problem, Olivia. You make me forget I'm not allowed to be the person who fixes things. You make me think I can be normal, have a normal life, protect someone He stopped, started over. "Protect someone without consequences. But I can't. Every choice I make risks everything, and I chose you over my freedom. I'd do it again." The weight of that settled on me like something physical. He'd sacrificed 3 more years. 3 more years of counting days and disappearing and surviving in a cage, because I'd called him for help. "I'm not letting you go back," I said. "It's not your choice. Then I'll make it my choice. I'll testify. I'll tell them exactly what happened. Derek violated the restraining order first. He tracked my car. He was going to hurt me. You stopped him using minimal force. That's not assault. That's defense of another. The prosecutor won't see it that way. Then I'll make them see it." He smiled, sad and exhausted. "You think the truth matters in a courtroom? It doesn't. What matters is my record, my history, the pattern they can build. Violent ex-con can't stay away from conflict. Unable to rehabilitate, danger to society. They'll paint me as the threat and Derek as the victim, and nothing you say will change that. I have to try." "Why?" he asked quietly. "Why are you doing this? You've known me for 6 weeks? And already you're sacrificing your savings, your time, your reputation. People at your work know about me now. Your neighbors definitely do. Your mother called you crying, begging you to stay away from me. Why not just let me go? Let me serve my time and disappear from your life." I sat down next to him, took his hand. Those scarred, careful hands that had fixed my car and changed my locks and held Derek down without hurting him more than necessary. "Because you're a good man who did a bad thing for a good reason," I said. "Because the system failed your sister the same way it's failing me. Because you've spent 14 months doing everything right and one phone call shouldn't erase all of that. And because..." I stopped, unsure if I should say it. "Because what?" "Because when I look at you, I don't see a criminal. I see someone who's fought harder than anyone I've ever known to be worthy of a second chance. And if I let you go back without fighting, then what's the point of second chances at all? He pulled me close, rested his forehead against mine. You're going to get hurt doing this. Emotionally, financially, maybe physically. Derek's not done. Patterson's watching you now too. And every day you stand by me is another day people judge you for choosing the ex-con over common sense. Let them judge. Olivia. I mean it. Let them judge. I'm done caring what people think is safe or smart or appropriate. You saved my life, multiple times, and now I'm saving yours. The hearing came 2 weeks later. I sat in the courtroom wearing the most professional outfit I owned, hands folded in my lap, while the prosecutor laid out the case against Marcus. Parole violation, assault, pattern of violence, history of vigilante justice, inability to stay away from conflict despite court orders. Derek testified, arm in a sling he definitely didn't need, describing how Marcus had attacked him unprovoked, how he'd been terrified for his life, how he'd only violated the restraining order because he was concerned for my safety, wanted to make sure I wasn't being manipulated by a violent criminal. The prosecutor ate it up. Then it was my turn. I stood at the witness stand and told the truth. All of it. How Derek had stalked me, threatened me, broken my window, tracked my car. How the police had done nothing despite multiple reports. How Marcus had helped me when no one else would. How Derek had been about to attack me when Marcus intervened. Miss Torres, the prosecutor said during cross-examination, isn't it true that you've been cohabiting with Mr. Reed? He was sleeping on my couch, I said. After my window was broken. After Derek escalated. Isn't it true Mr. Reed has a documented history of violence? He defended his sister from a man who nearly killed her. Isn't it true you're emotionally involved with Mr. Reed? I looked at Marcus, sitting at the defense table in a borrowed suit, face carefully neutral. Yes, I said. I am. Because he's a good man who's been punished for refusing to let people he cares about get hurt. He's followed every rule, met every requirement, done everything asked of him for 14 months. And one phone call, one moment of choosing to protect someone over protecting himself, shouldn't erase all of that. The prosecutor smiled like I'd just proved his point. So you admit you're emotionally compromised. I admit I know him better than any statistic or pattern you're trying to build. I know he wakes up at 4:30 every morning because he's terrified of being late to work. I know he checks the time compulsively because he's terrified of violating curfew. I know he counts things, steps, breaths, hours, because that's how he survived 10 years of hell. And I know that when I called him scared and alone, he made a choice that cost him everything. Not because he's violent, because he's human. The courtroom was silent. The judge looked at Marcus for a long moment. Then at me. Then at the files in front of her. Mr. Reed, she said. Stand up. Marcus stood. I held my breath. I've reviewed your record since release, the judge said. Perfect attendance at parole meetings, steady employment, no failed drug tests, no incidents until this one. The prosecutor paints a picture of someone unable to control violent impulses. But what I see is someone who controlled himself for 14 months under circumstances that would break most people. Hope flickered in my chest. However, she continued, you did violate the terms of your release. You were ordered to stay away from this situation and you didn't. Regardless of Ms. Torres' testimony, regardless of your intentions, the rules exist for a reason. If I let you walk away without consequences, I'm telling every parolee in this city that the rules don't matter if you think you have a good reason. The hope died. Therefore, I'm sentencing you to 90 days in county, followed by extended parole supervision, including GPS monitoring and stricter curfew. You'll wear an ankle monitor for the remainder of your parole term. Any further violations will result in full revocation. Do you understand? Marcus's face didn't change. Yes, Your Honor. Do you have anything to say? He was quiet for a moment. Then, I understand the rules exist to protect people. But sometimes the rules fail. When they do, when someone is genuinely in danger, I'm not sure I can promise I won't break them again. Not if it means someone gets hurt. So if that means I'm not fit for parole, then I accept that. But I won't apologize for keeping Miss Torres safe. The judge's expression softened slightly. Your honesty is noted, Mr. Reed. It's also noted that you used minimal force and called 911 yourself immediately after. 90 days. Consider it mercy. They took him away. Right there. No time to say goodbye. No final words. Just bailiffs leading him out while I sat there trying not to cry. Outside the courtroom, my mother was waiting. She'd driven down from Dallas, probably hoping I'd come to my senses. Instead, she found me crying on a bench, mascara ruined, hands shaking. "Sweetheart," she said quietly, "you need to let him go. He got 90 days. That's not so bad. 90 days is just the beginning. Then the ankle monitor. Then 3 more years of walking on eggshells. And that's if nothing else goes wrong. If Derek doesn't push him again. If some other situation doesn't arise. You're sacrificing your life for his. That's not love. That's guilt." I looked at her. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly," she said. "I understand you've found someone who makes you feel safe and protected and special. But he's not a hero, Olivia. He's a man with a violent past who can't seem to leave violence behind. And eventually, that's going to destroy both of you. Maybe she was right. Maybe this was guilt, or trauma bonding, or some psychological need to fix broken things. But when I thought about Marcus sitting in that cell, counting days again, preparing to survive another 90 days of hell because he'd chosen to protect me, I couldn't walk away. I'm not letting him go," I said. My mother sighed. "Then I hope he's worth what this is going to cost you." That night, alone in my apartment, my phone rang. Unknown number. My stomach dropped, thinking it was Derek from some new burner phone. But the voice was female. Shaking. Scared. "Is this Olivia Torres, the woman who's with Marcus Reed? Who is this?" "My name is Jenny," she said. "I'm Marcus's sister. And there's something you need to know about Derek Milligan, about why Marcus really hurt him. It wasn't just about me. Jenny wanted to meet in person, said what she had to tell me wasn't safe for phones. We met at a diner in Montrose, far enough from my neighborhood that Derek wouldn't accidentally spot us. She was smaller than I'd imagined, thin in a way that spoke of old trauma, but her eyes had the same steadiness as Marcus's, the same watchfulness. She sat across from me, hands wrapped around a coffee cup she didn't drink, and started talking. "Derek Milligan didn't just hurt me," she said. "He nearly killed me, put me in a coma for 3 days, fractured my skull, broke my jaw, ruptured my spleen. When I woke up, I could barely talk, but I told the police everything. Every detail. They arrested him." She pulled out her phone, showed me photos I had to look away from. A woman's face so swollen and bruised it barely looked human. The DA said we had a strong case. Then Derek's family hired lawyers. Good ones. They tore me apart on the stand, made me look unstable, emotional, vindictive, said I'd attacked him first, that my injuries were defensive. The jury couldn't reach a verdict. The DA dropped the charges rather than retry. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook. Marcus came to see me in the hospital after the trial. I'd never seen him like that. Not angry, empty. Like something inside him had died. He asked me if I was sure about what happened. If I was absolutely certain Derek had done it. I told him yes. Showed him the text messages Derek had sent me after, bragging about it, threatening to finish the job if I ever spoke up again. What did Marcus do? He left. Didn't tell me where he was going. 6 weeks later, I got a call from the police. Marcus had put Derek in the hospital, 3 months in critical care. When I visited Marcus in county lockup, waiting for trial, you know what he said? He confessed. I got him to confess everything. I recorded it. But then he pulled a knife and I lost control. My blood went cold. A recording? Dylan's lawyer got it suppressed. Said it was obtained under duress. Inadmissible. But I heard it. Derek admitting everything. Laughing about how easy it was to fool the jury. Saying he'd do it again. Marcus didn't just attack him. He went there to get justice the legal way. And Derek turned it violent. She finally met my eyes. Marcus spent 10 years in prison protecting me. And he never once told me about the recording because he didn't want me to feel guilty. Didn't want me to know he'd tried to do the right thing and it still ended with him in a cage. He just let everyone think he was a monster who couldn't control his anger. I sat there processing this, trying to reconcile the story with everything I'd been told. Why are you telling me this now? Because Derek's doing it again. Using the system to hurt people. using his family's money and lawyers to turn himself into the victim. And because Marcus is about to spend 90 days in jail for protecting you, and you need to know what kind of man you're fighting for. He's not perfect, but he's not the monster everyone thinks he is either. I need that recording, I said. It was destroyed. Court order. But you heard it? You can testify about what was on it. Jenny shook her head. Hearsay. Inadmissible. The lawyer already explained, but there might be another way. What way? Find Derek's other victims, she said. I wasn't the first. I know I wasn't. Men like him have a pattern. Find the others. Build a case not just for what he did to you, but what he's done to everyone. Make it impossible for the system to ignore him. I left that diner with a mission. Spent the next week doing what Marcus couldn't do from county lockup, investigating. I started with Derek's social media, going back years, identifying every woman he'd dated or been photographed with. Found 3 before me, 2 after Jenny. The first one, Melissa, hung up when I mentioned Derek's name. The second one, Rachel, agreed to meet me. We sat in her car outside a Target, and she told me a story that made my stomach turn. How Derek had isolated her, controlled her money, punched her in places that wouldn't show. How she'd finally gotten the courage to leave and he'd stalked her for months. How the restraining order she'd filed had done nothing. How he'd only stopped when she moved to Austin and changed her name. Why didn't you press charges? I asked. I tried. His family's lawyers buried me, made me look crazy. Eventually, I just wanted it to be over. What if I told you there's a way to make sure he can't do this to anyone else? She looked at me with eyes that had seen too much. I'm listening. I built a case over the next 2 weeks. Found Derek's ex-girlfriend before Rachel, a woman named Sarah who still had hospital records from when he'd accidentally pushed her down the stairs. Found the detective who'd worked Jenny's case. Retired now, living in Pearland, bitter about cases like this where money bought freedom. He gave me files he'd kept unofficially, evidence that had been excluded, witness statements that never made it to trial. I found Derek's juvenile record, sealed, but the detective knew how to access it. Assault at 16, expunged by his family. Assault at 19, pleaded down to disorderly conduct. Pattern. That's what Patterson wanted. I'd give him pattern. I took everything to Marcus's public defender, a burned-out woman named Sarah Chen who'd been planning to let Marcus take the 90 days quietly. She looked at the files I'd compiled, the testimony I'd gathered, and for the first time in weeks, I saw something like hope in her face. This changes things, she said. This shows Derek's the danger, not Marcus. This shows Marcus was responding to a legitimate threat from someone with a documented history of violence against women. We can file a motion to reconsider the sentence, maybe even get it reduced to time served. How long will that take? Weeks, maybe months, but it's worth trying. I visited Marcus in county lockup on a Thursday afternoon. He looked different in the orange jumpsuit, smaller somehow, like the uniform was swallowing him. We sat across from each other with a scratched plastic divider between us, phones pressed to our ears. You shouldn't be here, he said. First thing. Always the same first thing. I met your sister. His face changed, went carefully neutral. What did she tell you? Everything. About Dylan's confession, about the recording, about why you really went there that night. He closed his eyes. She shouldn't have done that. She should have done it 10 years ago. You let everyone think you were a monster. Let me think you just lost control. But you were trying to do the right thing. You were trying to get evidence the legal way. And I still ended up beating him half to death, Marcus said flatly. Still spent 10 years in prison. The intention doesn't change what I did, but it changes why. And that matters. Does it? Because I'm still sitting here in orange, still counting days, still losing everything because I couldn't just let it go. I leaned closer to the divider. I found Derek's other victims, 3 of them willing to testify. Hospital records, police reports, a pattern going back to when he was 16. We're filing a motion to reconsider your sentence. Sarah thinks we have a real chance. He stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. Why are you doing this? Because you did it for your sister. Because you tried to do the right thing and got punished anyway. Because I'm not going to let the system fail you twice. Olivia, this is going to destroy you. Financially, emotionally. You're going to spend months fighting for me. Months of lawyers and hearings and people judging you. And even if it works, even if they reduce my sentence, I'm still an ex-con with an ankle monitor. Still someone who'll never be fully free. Why sacrifice yourself for that? Because I love you, I said. The words came out before I could stop them, before I could think about whether they were true or smart or appropriate. I love you. And I'm not going to let you sit in here believing you're not worth fighting for. His eyes went bright. He put his hand on the divider. I put mine opposite his, separated by plastic and policies and all the ways the system kept people apart. If you do this, he said quietly, if you really fight for me and we win, I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to deserve it. You already deserve it. I don't. But maybe I can learn to... I took everything to Patterson myself, walked into his office uninvited, dropped the files on his desk, and told him he was wrong about Marcus Reed. Miss Torres, Derek Milligan has assaulted at least 4 women, has a juvenile record, has a pattern of using his family's money to avoid consequences. And you're so focused on Marcus's past that you're ignoring Derek's present. Marcus used minimal force, called 911, followed every rule for 14 months. One violation shouldn't erase all of that. Patterson looked through the files slowly. His face gave nothing away. This is good work, he finally said. Thorough. But it doesn't change the fact that Reed violated his parole. Then change what a violation means. Recognize the difference between someone who's a danger to society and someone who protected someone in danger. Because if you can't see that difference, then the system is broken beyond repair. He was quiet for a long time. Then, I'll talk to the judge. Make sure she sees these files before the review hearing. But Torres, don't get your hopes up. The system doesn't like admitting it was wrong. The final piece came 2 days before Marcus's review hearing. Derek called me, drunk, from a bar in Midtown. I almost didn't answer. Then I thought about Marcus sitting in county, about Jenny's face, about Sarah and Rachel and Melissa. I answered. Hit record. Olivia. Derek slurred. Baby, we need to talk. We have nothing to talk about. Sure we do. We need to talk about your boyfriend, about how he's rotting in jail because of you, how you destroyed his life by being weak. You violated the restraining order. You tracked my car. You threatened me. You loved it, he said. You loved feeling wanted, feeling special. That's why you called your prison boyfriend. Wanted to see what he'd do. Wanted to see if he'd break the rules for you. That's not what happened. Sure it is. And now he's paying the price. Just like Dylan paid. Just like Jenny paid. Everyone who gets in my way pays eventually. My hand tightened on the phone. What did you say? You heard me. Jenny thought she could leave me, thought she could press charges and ruin my life. I showed her what happens when bitches don't know their place. He was confessing. Drunk and stupid and arrogant enough to confess to everything. You put her in a coma, I said. You almost killed her. Should have finished the job, he laughed. Then her psycho brother wouldn't have... He stopped. Realized what he was saying. You're recording this, aren't you? Yes. Silence. Then, doesn't matter. Won't be admissible. I'm drunk. You trapped me. Maybe. But it'll be enough to investigate. Enough to make people look closer at your pattern. Enough to make your family's lawyers work a little harder. And Derek, I'm done being afraid of you. I hung up. Took the recording straight to the police station. Filed a new report. Demanded they investigate Derek's assault on Jenny, his violation of my restraining order. Everything. They tried to dismiss me. I told them I had a recording and 3 other victims willing to testify, and a retired detective with files they didn't want made public. They opened an investigation. Derek was arrested 2 days later, not for what he did to me, that was still tied up in legal proceedings, but for an outstanding warrant from a parole violation 3 years ago that someone suddenly decided to enforce. One of those things that gets buried when you have money and resurfaces when the right person pushes. Marcus's review hearing was on a Tuesday. I sat in that courtroom with Jenny beside me, with Rachel and Sarah and Melissa in the row behind us, with files and recordings and evidence that Derek was the monster, not Marcus. The judge reviewed everything. Took her time, finally looked at Marcus. Mr. Reed, I'm reducing your sentence to time served. You'll be released today with GPS monitoring and extended supervision. But Mr. Reed, If you end up in my courtroom again, I won't be lenient. Understood? Yes, Your Honor. They released him that afternoon. I was waiting outside county lockup when he walked out, blinking in the October sun, looking lost and hopeful and terrified all at once. He saw me and stopped. You did it, he said. We did it. He walked toward me slowly, like he was afraid I'd disappear if he moved too fast. When he finally reached me, he pulled me into his arms and held on like I was the only solid thing in a tilting world. Thank you, he whispered into my hair. Thank you for seeing me, for fighting, for not giving up. Never, I said. I'll never give up on you. He kissed me then. Finally. Properly. And it felt like coming home. Marcus moved back into my apartment that night. Not onto the couch this time, into my room, into my life in a way that felt both terrifying and inevitable. We lay there in the dark, his GPS ankle monitor a constant reminder that freedom was conditional. Tell me what it was like, I said. The 90 days. It was like I never left, he said quietly. First night back in a cell. My body just remembered. How to sleep with one eye open. How to make yourself small. I kept thinking about you out here, fighting for me. I turned to face him. You're out now. We're going to build something good. The review of Derek's case took 3 months. Rachel, Sarah, and Melissa all came forward officially. The district attorney filed charges. Aggravated assault. Stalking. Derek took a plea deal. 5 years. It wasn't enough, but it was accountability he'd never faced before. Marcus got a job as a mechanic at a shop in East End. The owner believed in second chances. Marcus showed up early, stayed late, made himself indispensable. 6 months later, his parole officer said, "You're doing good, Reed. Keep it up." My mother came to visit. She'd been resistant, worried, but she watched Marcus cook dinner with careful precision, noticed the way he asked about her drive, the way he existed quietly and carefully. He's different than I expected, she told me later. He spent 10 years learning how not to be dangerous. You love him? I do. We got into a rhythm. Marcus worked, came home by 9 to beat curfew. Weekends we drove to Galveston, walked on the beach, pretended we were normal people. 2 years after his release, the ankle monitor came off. We celebrated at the same diner where we'd had our first date. Move in with me officially, he said. I want to find a place that's ours, build something that belongs to both of us. Yes, I said. God, yes. We found a small house to rent in the Heights. Marcus started teaching weekend classes at the community center, basic car maintenance for single parents. He was patient, thorough. I watched him explain how to change oil to a single mother with 3 kids. You're good at this, I said. It's not much. It's everything. 5 years after his release, Marcus's parole ended. He walked out of that office a free man, truly free for the first time in 15 years. We drove to Galveston. He stood in the surf, tilted his head back to the stars. I counted 7,303 days of waiting for my life to start, he said. And now it's started. And I don't know what to do with it. You live it. 6 months later, he proposed on our porch at sunset. I don't have much to offer. A record that follows me everywhere. A past I can't erase. But I've got love. Real love. The kind that shows up when things are hard. And if you'll have me, I promise I'll be the man you saw even when I couldn't see him myself. I said yes. We got married at the courthouse with Jenny and my mother as witnesses. Had dinner at the same diner where it all began. When the waitress brought our coffee, she smiled. You two look happy. We are, Marcus said, taking my hand. And it was true. Not perfect. Not easy, but real. Built on truth and second chances and the stubborn belief that people can change. I chose Marcus Reed not because I needed saving, but because he showed me what redemption looks like. And together, we built something neither of us thought we deserved. A life. A home. A love that survived everything designed to destroy it. If you made it to the end of this story, let us know in the comments which city you're watching from. And click the yellow bell to subscribe to the channel and support us. Keep the adventure going by clicking on the suggested video on your screen.